All right, welcome back to Podcast Recovery, everyone. We are your hosts, David O.
And Eric V.
Today we are joined by our very special guest, Chris K.
What's going on, guys?
How you doing today, man?
Good. How about yourself?
Doing well, man.
All right.
Glad to finally get you on here. Took, what, 3-4 chances?
Dude, it took a while, man.
It took a little
while.
I think it was 3.
3 chances.
Yeah.
3 chances.
Third time's a charm. Perfect.
That's it.
Where are you originally from?
So I'm originally from Arnold, Maryland, right outside of Annapolis.
Okay. Nice. When were you first introduced to recovery?
I was first introduced back in, I want to say it was like August 2009.
All right.
Yep.
And how long have you been clean?
3 years.
All right. Yeah. And what's your clean date?
December 17th, 2015.
Nice. So you just celebrated 3 years?
Yep.
Congratulations, brother.
Thanks, guys.
That's big
Thank
shit.
you.
Yeah, without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to you. Share your story with us, brother.
Sure. All right. Well, so like, I had a decent childhood, you know, I say it's decent compared to like some of the families I've met in this process. You know, I had a father, that always took care of me. You know, I had a mother. I didn't meet her until I was probably about 10 years old. I grew up with different stepmoms in my life, and so my dad was like the one person that was like my best friend, my rock, the one person who never left my side. And, at 14 years old, my house was raided. My father was locked up for having a meth lab in the backyard.
Oh, shit.
And yeah, man. And so it was like the first time a gun was ever pointed in my face. And like, I'm not saying like, I don't know what stemmed from me being an addict. I know like even before that happened, like, my drug of choice was attention. I remember like as a kid waking up my father, star 69 in his phone. And like,
that dated you.
Yeah,
star 69. Holy shit.
Yep. And, and I would call his phone from that and to try to wake him up, because I wanted somebody to play with, you know. And, but after that happened, man, I started acting out in school, started getting suspended a lot, and then 2 years later, I was at my third high school, living in Carroll County, and living with my biological mom, who told me it was okay for me to smoke weed and drink, and that's really where it started, man, and what started as like social acceptability turned into something like that I would never imagine happening. I found acceptance through using and especially with my mom, you know what I mean? Like my mom said it was okay, so I did it, and what started, I was like just smoking weed and drinking, turned into pills, then to coke, and then by senior year of high school, man, like, I was doing coke and pills almost every day.
Do you remember your first drink?
I do No, I don't.
Wow.
No, but I do remember what happened on the night. Like I don't remember the first drink that I had, but I do remember the night that I did get drunk for the first time. I remember this walk up to the Sheets near where I lived, and I just remember stumbling throughout the alley trying to get Sheets to get some food, and good times.
Yeah.
By senior year of high school, like I knew I had a problem. That was pretty apparent. Like, there was no denying that fact. And so I went ahead and joined the military.
Which branch?
Army.
Nice.
Yep. And 2.5 years later, I was being discharged out of the Army because of my drug use. And when I got home, it wasn't, hey, Mom, how are you doing? I've missed you. What's new? It was, Mom, can you get me some Coke? Ooh. And like, the night that I got relieved of duty and was able to be picked up and go home, I was smoking crack with my mom on the drive home. And I was like off to the races from there.
Was it easy to get drugs in the Army?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it was.
Where were you stationed?
Especially pills. So, I mean, I was all over. I went to basic training in Fort Knox, Kentucky. Then from there, I went to Aberdeen Proving Grounds, Maryland. And then I went to Camp Dodge, Iowa. And then I went to D.C. for a little while. And then I was stationed at right in Reisterstown, actually.
Oh, well.
Camp Frederick, I think that's what it was called.
Pills are everywhere in Maryland, so.
That's it.
Yeah.
And so then when I went back home, it was still ways and means to get more. And then probably about 2 years later, we were evicted at this point. I was living in Tawnytown. I was being hunted down by the police there for identity theft and identity fraud and a few other things. I stole some people's credit cards and used them at Sheetz to buy like prepaid cell phone minutes and cigarettes and stuff like that.
Wow.
And so I booked it to Anne Arundel County. My dad was fresh out of federal lockup. And so, like, when I got to his house, I was like, hey, Dad, like, I need some help. And he's like, man, look, he's like, the only time you've ever been to see us is either on your birthday or Christmas. Like, we don't want you here.
Ooh.
And, as a good addict, like, I'm not going to, take no as an answer. Like, look, man, like, I'm your son. You need to help me.
Yeah.
If you didn't leave me, like, if you didn't do what you did, I wouldn't be in the situation that I'm in.
Oh,
you know what I mean? So he said in order to live there, I needed to get help through a institution. And then from there, like, I got introduced to a 12-step fellowship. And when I came in, like, I just went to meetings. I just got my slip signed, and that was it.
Yep.
I didn't get a sponsor. Didn't take none suggestions. Didn't really even want to get clean, for real. I was still in that denial. I didn't know whether I was an addict or not, and I would introduce myself as one to try to fit in, and so from there, man, after I got slips, no longer needed to be signed, I did what I did best, was just to use. And, and that went on for another 6 months. And, when I claimed false clean time, I claimed 6 months clean. I had a sponsor working dishonest steps. Had his home group, was stealing from the home group. After 6 months of doing that, man, like,
you're that guy?
I'm that guy, bro.
Wow.
Getting high before the meetings.
I've always wondered, I was like, did somebody actually steal from that, or is that just like an urban legend in the meetings?
Man,
but no, you're that fucking guy.
I was that guy, man.
Nice.
And
you're a dick. No.
Dude, without a doubt, bro. And what's crazy is because, like, once I did finally surrender, after 6 months of doing that, like, what I'd like to tell you is that, like, once I finally got clean and, like, everything changed. But that's not my story. My story is, like, my entire first year, I still stole from almost any meeting that I go to. I stole from every job that I worked for. I lied to every single person I came into contact with. I was still portraying, like, crackhead behaviors, just not smoking crack, you know what I mean? And that's one of the things, man, where they say, like, applying the principles, you know what I mean? You can read about it, you can listen to other people's experience about it, but, like, you'll never be able to experience the life of practicing principles until you choose to experience it.
Yeah.
And so, but, like, I managed to stay clean throughout my first year, and then after that, man, I found it no longer acceptable to be stealing. I found it no longer acceptable to be lying. And
was there like a certain circumstance that actually like precipitated that?
Yeah, I was working my fourth step.
Oh.
And I saw the same behaviors that how I was using was the same way that I was living clean. And that was no longer acceptable to me anymore. I got sick and tired of being sick and tired. And so, like, I started applying these principles in my life, man, and, like, my life changed, you know what I mean? And, like, throughout the years, like, being clean, like, I had amazing opportunities happen to me. Like I started becoming a, circuit convention speaker. I was speaking at conventions, speaker jams, and doing the whole, rigmarole of that, you know, and then also, like, my mother died as a direct result of her actions from this disease. My little sister was locked up, facing 20 years in prison. My brother went missing. You know what I mean? I had, like, a bunch of stuff that went on, and, but, like, no matter what, did not use. And then when I was coming up to 5 years clean, a few of my friends decided that they wanted to go back out and drink. And now, see, I got clean when I was 20 years old, so like this was new for me. You know what I mean? I was like, oh man, like, all of us have been clean for so long now.
Yeah.
Like I'm wondering if it's okay now. Like, I've worked all the steps at this point,
taking your will back. And
exactly. But see, now here's the kick. Like, in the literature, it states that, like, it doesn't say, like, drinking alcohol has caused a great many addicts to relapse. It just says thinking of alcohol as different from other drugs. And so it's like, just thinking about it and not being honest when I was sharing, and I was afraid to tell people that like, hey, like, you know, I have this amount of time, I've worked this amount of steps, and now I want to use. And I was too embarrassed to come in and tell people, and so I went ahead and had that drink, and to me it was like, well, it'll be different this time. It's not like I'm smoking rocks, but I went ahead and had that drink, but the same consequences of smoking rocks happened, because like the girl was gone, the dog was gone. I lost my job because I started stealing again, and I started lying to everybody, and then the car was repossessed, and then I was facing homelessness again. And then because now I'm caught back up in this grip of this disease, I'm telling myself, you know what, it's not that bad. And
just because it's alcohol?
No, it ended up stemming a lot more than that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And but like, you know, my disease started running rampant, man. And then somebody in the rooms gave me a shot working for them, and we were at Home Depot one day about to get into a fist fight over my attitude, pretty much. And as it was about to go down, man, and in the middle of Home Depot, and he stopped himself, and he's like, "Dude, who are you? Like, I don't even recognize you." And so instead of going to the job site, he took me to a meeting, and he kept on doing this every single day until I finally got clean. And, and that's December 17th, 2015. And, when I came back in, like, I was gripping my seat, I was calling people out of meetings, I was disrupting meetings, I was not okay in my own skin, I was finding any excuse for you guys to tell me, like, I'm no longer welcome here, you had your shot, you're done.
Ooh.
And, but that never happened. Instead, like, I remember going to this meeting, like, I was, probably a week clean, and, this guy, he had a mental illness, and he was talking to himself, and it was distracting me. And because now I'm, this self-centered, self-absorbed guy, I'm not okay with this. And so, like, I started throwing chairs at this guy in the middle of a meeting. And I actually was asked to leave. And, and I went to
You're that guy, too?
I'm that guy, too,
Oh,
man.
my God.
I'm telling you. And,
I don't know anybody that ever been like, no, I do remember at the midnight meeting, dude was severely fucking drunk.
It was that bad, huh?
Yeah, and he like had the bottle on him.
Oh, shit.
And he fell out of his chair straight onto his face, and we were like, dude, you gotta go. Because it was like early recovery young people's meeting, and we were like, you gotta leave.
Absolutely.
Oh, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah, because there comes a point where it's like, you're putting not only other people, but also the meeting place in jeopardy.
Yeah.
And, so once that happened, I went to a different meeting, and when I got there, the speaker, I walked in, and the speaker was saying, and I swear to God, this is like my God moment for me. Like, I walked in, and the guy's like, you know what, like, this is the only place where you can act a fool, and people will still tell you to keep coming back.
Yeah.
And man, like, after that, I realized you guys weren't going to throw me out, so I stopped acting out. And then, like, I got my life back on track. Got a job, got a car, and started, maintaining this social acceptability and responsibility of being a human being again. And so, about 8 months clean, I was working for this construction company, and I fell off this roof. I landed on my feet and broke my lower back, paralyzing me from the waist down.
Ooh.
And by the time I got shock trauma, my sponsor was there, my friends were there, my family were there, and the next day, the doctors were telling some of my closest friends that there was no guarantee of me ever walking again. And when this happened, man, like, I didn't want to use, I just wanted to die. I didn't find that there was any purpose in me living if I couldn't walk. As I'm an active snowboarder, skateboarder, very active person. I did stuff like the Warrior Dash, you know what I mean? So I was like very, very active. And, and I remember going up to New Jersey, and this woman called me, and she's like, "Chris, when's the last time you prayed?" And I'm like, I looked at her, I looked at her, and I mean, like in my mind, she called me up, but looked at her in my head, I was like, do you see what type of position I'm in right now?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, why would I pray to a God that put me in this situation?
Yeah, like, who the fuck do you think you are asking me that question right now?
Exactly. And then she says, well, can I pray for you? I said, sure. So she says this very sweet, serene, very spiritual prayer. Like, I was crying. I swear to God, I'm not a bitch. You would have been crying too if you were there.
Oh, dude, I cry all the time. I'm a 100% crier. Eric knows it.
Yeah, he cries.
He cries.
Thank you.
Crier.
It's a good cosign.
Yeah, man. And, and she said, now it's your turn. She's like, whatever you do, just be honest. I was like, all right. So, you want God, like, fuck you. This isn't fair. Why me? I was doing really good. Like, and I was started cussing him out and calling him every name in the book.
Yeah.
And at the end, I thought she was going to be like, that's not how you pray.
Yeah.
But what she said was good. Now keep saying that prayer every single day. And so, like, I went to bed cussing God out, and I woke up cussing God out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's how my days went. And then one day, I remember waking up, man, and, like, that anger and that hatred was gone. And instead, it was, my prayers started changing. It was no longer, like, poor me, why did this happen to me? It was like, okay, God, so this happened, so what's the game plan now? Mm-hmm. Like, what am I supposed to do now?
Yeah.
And, and it changed into, like, a level of acceptance. And,
you've probably like heard like the 5 stages of grief and everything. Like, did you like fully like, was that like the case? Was there like anger? Eric probably knows all of them. Was it anger?
I can't think of them.
It was like
resentment,
denial.
Denials in there.
Like, did like all that go through your head?
Not really. I mean, well, I guess you could say so.
Mm-hmm.
But it happened really fast.
Yeah.
But even like today, like, so, when I came back, I dove into physical therapy. Mm-hmm. I went back to in the meetings. I was the only guy in my area in a wheelchair. Mm-hmm. I felt different. I felt, different and less than other people. But, like, no matter what, like, I did not use. I just went to meetings and stuck close to my friends. And, like, that was the coolest thing. Like, my friends never treated me any different. Like, they didn't look down on me. They didn't, they didn't squat down to talk to me. They didn't, you know what I mean? And they didn't talk to me any differently. They acted like, I was still walking. And even, like, some of them, like, made fun of me. You know what I mean? Like, this guy can't work a ladder. You know what I mean? And, looks like you can't stand up for what you believe in. You know what I mean? So, but, like, that's the stuff that I needed. You know what I mean? Like, I needed, I really wanted to feel a part of, and, like, that was the stuff that made me feel a part of. Mm-hmm. Like, and I learned to laugh at it. And then, like, so I dove into physical therapy, and then, like, I decided to go back to school and get a degree. And then, like, where I'm at today, man, it's like, I'm walking, I'm snowboarding, you know what I mean? Everything's good, you know what I mean? I have over 3 years clean. I have a AA degree. I'm working on my bachelor's degree, interning as a project manager assistant. And, man, it's just like, like when people say, like, I have a life beyond my wildest dreams, man, I used to hate it because, like, if you had a life like I had, there's no way your life could be beyond your wildest dreams. Yeah. But, like, I can honestly say, like, just from being patient and just from, like, trying to just stay in the moment, and practicing these principles in all of my affairs, like, my life is better today, you know what I mean? And it definitely wouldn't have been like this if I was still using it and this would have happened. Yeah. You know what I mean? I can guarantee you that. So that's that's pretty much my story, man. Like, I have a dog. I'm a dog dad. Nice. You know what I mean? Dude. Yeah, she's actually out in the car right now.
What kind of dog?
A golden doodle.
Ooh.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Half golden retriever, half poodle?
Yep. Yeah, nice. Cutest dog in the world, man. Cutest dog in the world.
Yes, you blasted on Facebook.
Yeah, you already know.
I already know. You're
she's a model, man. She's awesome. And man, but, like, throughout this process, like, one of the biggest things I can say to anybody is that, like, I never know what life is going to bring, but I do know that, like, if I stay in this process, even if I can't see what's going to happen, as long as I stay in this process and have faith, then, like, this too shall pass. It will get better. It might not be the way that I might not want it. But, like, the reality is a lot of us miss the biggest blessings in our life because they're not in the packages that we expect them to be in. You know, and, my life is so, like, this injury was probably the best thing to ever happen to me. It humbled me a lot. It humbled me a lot. You know what I mean? And I wouldn't be the person I am today without this 12-step fellowship that I'm in and my experiences that I've experienced clean.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, man.
Do you have some questions, Eric, or
do you want to go? Do you want to go first?
Do you want me
David?
to start? All right. All right. Like me personally, as an addict, like we're human beings. Like life is gonna happen. Like what we talk about in recovery is life on life's terms and dealing with life on life's terms.
Absolutely.
Sometimes, like, I've never had that difficult of a scenario necessarily. Like, some of them have been more psychological or emotional. Sometimes I have trouble with, and I've seen other people struggle with, how they approach those different obstacles in life. And sometimes, like, I want to sit in my shit. Were there sometimes during that injury and during that recovery process that your perception of it changed? Like, were sometimes were you just like, fuck it, I don't want to do it today, and then other times were you more motivated?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's still the same way sometimes today. You know, like I wear an ankle brace on my left leg, and I have drop foot in it, and even sometimes today, like I'm like, I don't want to go to physical therapy. Like I don't feel like it, or like in the mornings, like I feel like an old man because I have to stretch my legs in the morning, and some days it pisses me off. Some days I'm like, dude, like I wish that didn't happen. You know what I mean? And sometimes I get ungrateful for like the process that I've made. But even in the journey that got me up to here, absolutely, dude. Like, I didn't want to drive to Baltimore to physical therapy. I argued with my physical therapist. I felt like they weren't trying enough, or sometimes I was self-sabotaging. You know what I mean? Yeah, there was definitely a lot of, quite a few periods where I just wanted just to give up. You know?
Yeah. That's like... That honestly, like seeing because I've like watched the whole progression through social media and everything, and just different social functions, seeing you at and like seeing your progression. Like it's almost like you've been doing like double duty. You've been doing recovery in recovery, like on two different fronts. Plus going back to school. Oh. It's amazing.
Yeah.
What questions you got, Eric? What you got over there? I'll think of some.
All right.
I don't write mine down.
Well, I'm going to do some stock, too. All right. So first, we'll start in the beginning a little bit. So you used with your mom.
Yes.
Right? You said that. You got kicked out of the military and you guys were smoking crack on the way back?
Yep.
So, I always remember... being younger, I'm guessing your house was like that house, right?
It was that house.
Like, one of my ex-girlfriends, that was like her house.
Yeah.
Like I smoked crack with her mom. You know what I mean? Like not cool, but I did it.
Yeah.
But like, how did that affect your relationship with your mom?
Well, that's a really good question. So because I met my mom at such a older age, you know what I mean? Like I was 10 years old when I met her. She lived in Illinois at the time, so I would go and see her during the summertime and the wintertime. But like I didn't fully have any type of like strong relationship with my mother until I was about like 14 or 15 when she moved to Maryland. And it was always just as a best friendship, you know what I mean? Because in my life, you know what I mean, just having so many women in and out of my life growing up that like I could never...
Phone down.
Yeah, phone down. I could never trust any like woman like that, and And then so when we started using together, I found acceptance with my mother through that, but it was just as a best friend, like, and didn't have her as a mother figure, and that was it, you know, all the way up until she died, you know, like one of my biggest things was like, so she got clean at one point in her life. It was literally right before she died. She was clean for 2 years. And then she had court. She was going through some domestic violence at the time. And she had court. And so I went up there and stayed the night at her house. And that night, you know, I remember thinking, like, dude, I'm pretty sure, like, my mom's high. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But this is the first time in my life when my mother's finally clean that, like, I didn't want to accept it. You know what I mean? Like, and in my mind, I'm like, no way. No, she's definitely clean. But in the back of my mind, like, I knew she was using.
Yeah.
You know, and I was so afraid to say something because it was like, I finally have a mom. Mm-hmm. You know? And 2 weeks later, you know what I mean? She was dead. But yeah, man, it was just basically like a best friendship, you know what I mean? And but like, you know, like sometimes today, like I'll go over a gravesite and I'll read a letter to her. I'll just stop and talk to her, and you know, and always wish that, like, you know, I did have something different, you know what I mean? But you know, I guess it, you know, it is what it is, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, I do. I thought of a question. Okay. So, with your injury, did that come with pain management drugs?
Yes. So, yeah.
Go into that process.
All right, you got it. Yeah, so when it happened, you know, they were giving me liquid morphine constantly throughout the daytime and nighttime, and like I couldn't fall asleep. I remember, like, you know, I was at the hospital, so when it first happened, I was so drugged up that one of my best friends actually teabagged me and took a picture.
Oh God!
While I was in the hospital bed.
What a
Not
dick!
cool.
Yep.
That's not fucking cool.
Yep. And I didn't believe him. I never believed him until probably about a year ago. He showed me the picture.
Not cool.
What a fucking dick!
Yep. And you know, but this guy's like my brother today, man. He's like my best friend in the whole wide world. And
do I know him?
I'm not sure. Not sure if you do. But yeah. So you know, so
you can put him on blast for a second if you want.
Yeah, this guy, you know, Gabe C.
Oh, Gabe's. Yeah. I know of him.
Yep.
Yeah. You're a dick, Gabe.
Gabe
People around
dick.
the world are gonna hear that Gabe is a dick.
Gabe is a dick. I wanna. That actually sounds like a pretty good, like, you know, like a T-shirt or a bumper sticker. Gabe is a dick.
We can make that. We can make that happen.
That would be awesome. And yeah, so like, you know, throughout that process of trying to heal, like I was definitely taking a lot of narcotics for pain management, and as well as like different muscle relaxers and like gabapentin and stuff like that. You know, and then while I was doing my physical therapy, I noticed that, you know, I didn't really like the feeling of being high, but I did not like the pain either that was shooting through me. So as like the medicines changed, it went from like liquid morphine to Oxycontin, and then from Oxycontin to, you know, quite a bit of Percocets, and then like from there, like I just weaned myself down until like I could just barely manage it, and then I just took ibuprofen from then on. Because I wanted to be off of drugs before I came back to Maryland. Because I wanted to go to meetings right away. So that was my process of that. And then when I was back here, like I was still taking gabapentin for my muscles and everything like that. And then and I weaned myself off of that too. And then so that's my story with that.
Did you ever did you have any like internal struggle with how that fit into like addiction recovery?
Honestly, not really. And the reason being is like I've had surgeries clean. You know, I had my appendix taken out. I've had throat surgery before. You know, and another surgery before. So it's like, you know, I've had surgeries clean. And so like, you know, with the pain medication, it didn't really bother me too much. There were a few times where I did get in my head about it, and like I would call up my sponsor and talk to him about it, and like right after the conversation, I felt fine.
Yeah.
Like, I got, like, the reality is, like, I got clean to get off drugs, but, like, I didn't get clean to be in pain. And, like, I was in physical. And that's the thing with medication. Like, whenever people ask me, like, well, what's your experience with this? My biggest piece of advice is self-honesty. And that is the biggest thing. Because, like, like, I'm not a doctor. I can't tell you if you need meds or not, you know what I mean? But I know for me, like, I had to be very self-honest. If I really needed the medication because I was in that much pain, then I would have to take it. But the biggest thing is, like, because I have something in my head that says, hey, well, I mean, it hurts a little bit, you know what I mean? Like, you can probably take, you know what I mean? So I have to be very aware and self-aware and very self-honest about this whole thing. So that's probably the biggest thing with it all.
Nice. Back to you, Eric.
Cool. All right, so you had 5 years,
yes.
right? And you relapsed. So do you believe that your relapse was... Well, how can I say this? Like... Okay, so I've relapsed twice, right? And I believe that both of my relapses were invaluable to be like transform myself into the person I am today, and that I don't think I'd be where I am now, or be as the person that I am without those relapses. And I feel like they were essential. Do you feel like that kind of similar? Do you feel that way? Like
yes and no. Like it's weird. Like that's like a really tricky subject for me. Like, do I think that it was valuable for me? Absolutely. Coming from a place where I could not be honest with anybody anymore, I made the decision to go back out. And I came back in. Now, I could have, just stayed clean if I would have been honest. You know what I mean? Maybe things would have been different. Who knows? But I do know is that when I came back, like, I did something with it. And I think that's what separates people who, like, come in and out, is because, like, relapse is not a process of recovery. Like, it's not a part of it. But it can be somebody's process, just not recovery, but it's somebody's process. And, but, like, the reality is just what are you going to do with your experience? Yeah. That's, like, that's what I, think of it all. You know what I mean? So, like, when I came back in, like, no matter what, like, whether I, like, physically grasped my chair, whether I called people out of means, whether I screamed at people, used up the burning desire, whether or not, like, I talked to people 3 o'clock in the morning, you know what I mean? Like, I made a decision when I came back, like, that wasn't what I wanted. And, and I did something with it, and still today, like, it bothers me, like, for example, like, and this is, like, ego probably, this guy was like, hey, man, like, New York, is looking for a speaker for one of their speaker jams, like, I'm going to put them your way. I was like, awesome, man, sounds great, you know what I mean? He's like, oh, by the way, how much time you got now? Time I had 2.5 years, this was only, like, 6 months ago. Yeah. He's like, oh, it's like, they're looking for somebody with at least 5 years. I was like, oh, okay. And he's like, well, I'll call you back and let you know what's up. I was like, all right. And he never called me back. Yeah. And let me just tell you, I felt lower than low. I was like, if I didn't relapse, then I could have been up there. You know what I mean? And there goes that vicious cycle again. Like, well, if I didn't do this, you know what I mean? And then harboring on that relapse. But, like, reality is that was my process. And now, like, I'm a better person today because of it. You know what I mean? Absolutely. I believe that, but I don't believe that it needs to be in anybody's story. But I guess like I said, it's just what you do with it. You know what I mean? Absolutely.
There was a stock question that I stole from you, and I forgot what it was.
Oh, really?
It's been a while.
I wrote it down right here.
Now it's all you again.
So, how has addiction manifested itself in your recovery?
Oh, man. Shoot.
How did I not remember that?
So, I go to an all-black school.
Yes.
All-black college. And I absolutely love it because I am like one of maybe 12 white people that go to this college. And, and that's where my addiction manifests a lot.
Did you get a minority scholarship for that?
No, man. And I was told I'd be able to, but because I was a transfer junior coming in, it's only available for freshmen. I was like, what?
Loophole.
Yeah. Dumb. And so I came in, but I got a lot of acceptance from people. I made myself known. And, my addiction runs rampant in school because, it's in the middle of the city, northern Baltimore, and, it smells like weed all over the place. So, I'll go to class, and I'm like, damn, that's some really good stuff, you know what I mean? And, so it runs rampant there. My head's constantly doing, a million miles a minute. And then, and then not only just that, just, my involvement in school, I'm in a student organization. I'm vice president for the student organization. I'm involved with a different organization outside of school, but it is connected to school in some way. Mm-hmm. And I'm involved with that. And then I'm saying involved to where sometimes my life gets unmanageable because of it. Mm-hmm. And I love doing homework. It's crazy to say now. I never thought I'd ever say that, but I could do homework all day, all night. I love school. That's probably my drug right there. Mm-hmm. So school's definitely a big part of it. Where my disease manifests. And then lately, man, it's been relationships. Mm. I am a runner. I am a runner. My last relationship, I decided that, wasn't what I wanted. And sure, I could have stuck it out, whatever, but I wasn't feeling it. But even before that, any relationship that I've had, I've ended it quickly. I'll leave before you get the opportunity to hurt me, you know what I mean, type thing. And, and it became really apparent when, one of my best friends says that his New Year's resolution for me is for me to stick in a relationship for more than 6 months.
So, follow-up question.
Yeah.
All right. So, why? Why do you think you run?
Ooh.
That's a good question,
We're getting to the deep tracks here.
I got okay being by myself. And sometimes I'm not okay with the arguing. When it comes to the arguing and fighting, I think that I am right. And then so I'm like, well, I don't need this. I'm okay by myself, know. Yep. And I'll disregard the entire relationship just to prove a point. And and lately though, what it all stems from was my first love of my life in recovery. Mm-hmm. I had probably 9 months clean. I got involved with a female, and we were together for 2 years.
Okay, that's not running.
No, that's not running. It's the first girl I've ever been in a long-term, serious relationship with. We had
Is that before the relapse?
Yeah, before the relapse. Yeah, and we had the apartment, had the dog. Had it all, man. I was building a life with this girl. Put a down payment on a ring, and some situations happened, and and I was still newer in recovery. I mean, I was almost 3 years clean at the time, and and I decided instead of talking with her throughout this process that she was going through, that I was like, no, I'm just going to leave. Mm-hmm. And, and that was one of the biggest regrets of my life. And in any type of relationship that I've had after that, I've always compared them to her.
Ooh.
And which, and it took a lot of looking through myself to really see that, because I've always wanted something that I had with her. And so dude, recently, man, I will say that she is actually back in my life.
That's good.
I haven't spoken to this woman in probably 6 years. And she hits me up randomly, says she got a number from a friend of mine, and congratulated me on 3 years clean, and we went out on coffee, and that flame just sparked again, you know what I mean? It's always been there, but
she slid into your DMs.
Dude, she slid right into the DMs, bro. And then we actually just had our first date last night, you know what I mean? And
very good.
So I'm taking it slow, and and I was, I've been keeping some of my friends who have these long-term relationships close by, because I don't know everything. Relationships is probably the hardest area of my life that I need help with. Now, financially, I'm good. You know what I mean? I stick to a budget. credit wise, I'm good. You know, I've gotten help with that. Like school, like any area of my life, I've always gotten help with stuff to being, good in those areas.
Yeah.
And so relationships is just the one area that like never really asked for help for, and like this time like I am. So I keep my friends close with what's going on and get their perspective on stuff because I don't want to run, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So but honestly it's probably because of that and the fact that like I've had multiple mothers in my life.
Yes.
That no woman has ever stuck around, and they're not going to stick around, and like I'm not good enough, and it brings me back to as a child the same feelings that like my dad was the only one that stuck around. Like all these other women, like they're not going to stick around.
Yeah.
Like they don't really love me. You know what I mean? So like, it was a lot of like mommy issues. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, Chris K has mommy issues.
Oh, dude, I've always said I got daddy issues. Like I had the same thing.
Yep.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
That's deep.
Yeah, man.
What else you got, Eric?
Can't believe we just talked about that.
Man, you got to.
Oh, we
All
did it.
right. So we're going into more stock questions.
All right.
And this is one David didn't like the first time I asked. But since you're in school
Yes.
and you have a track, I'm going to ask you this question. So, in recovery, right, it's just for today.
I don't even remember this question.
But in life, we don't have that, I mean, you need to plan, right?
Absolutely.
Like, you're not, like, you didn't get into school by just being like, just for today, I'm going to go to school.
Fuck off with
Like,
this
you had
question.
to,
This question can fuck right
you
off.
had to, like, plan for that. So,
Yeah.
where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Oh, okay. I thought it was going to be a completely different question.
No,
Like,
do
I
you,
was like,
do you
okay.
have a 5-year plan?
Yeah,
Where do you see
no,
yourself?
I definitely do. My goal in the next 5 years is, in the next like year or so, I plan on buying a house, like a house in my own name. I plan on having, I'm starting on different retirement portfolios for myself.
Like a 401k and
Roth.
Roth.
Like you can only pitch in so much for Roth every year. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
like I'm planning on having a whole portfolio built, and then being married and having a kid. You know what I mean? Hopefully with the girl. And,
Man just said he was taking it slow 2 minutes
if
ago.
You're listening,
Married with kids in a house 5 years.
This is
bitch.
his
bitch, you're on the clock.
This is the addict. You know what I mean? Because in my mind, we've already been married and
See, but now you can't tell her about the podcast. She's gonna listen to this shit, and you're gonna scare the fish away.
Luckily, she's not in she's not in a 12-step fellowship. You know what I mean? She's a normie. You know what I mean?
Perfect.
So it kind of works out perfect.
Yeah.
And yeah, man. So that's pretty much graduating with my bachelor's. And then being from being an assistant project manager to being an actual project manager.
Yeah.
And those are probably my biggest things. So of course, like staying clean and that. You know what I mean? I think those are like probably some of my biggest goals.
Yeah.
That I want.
That's awesome.
Yep.
I have a question. Bringing that up, so this past love interest / rekindled relationship, she's a normie. My fiance is a normie. She didn't use. She smoked pot 3 times in her life.
Yeah.
Which is like so.
3 times?
3 times. That was it. 3 times she smoked weed. That was it. And she was like, yeah, I didn't like it. First time, it made me tired. Second time, it made me hungry. And then the third time, I don't even know. So I just didn't do it ever again. I'm just like, what?
Okay.
Now, has there ever been sort of a little like push and pull in the fact that they're not an addict? Because I know for me, like there's been a couple times like she's allowed to drink. That's her shit.
Yeah.
Like we don't have shit in the house. But there's been times when she's gone out with her friends and she's come back smelling like alcohol, and like I felt some sort of way about that. Have you ever had any sort of situations like that?
Yeah. I mean, like a lot of the relationships in my life has been with people outside of recovery. I just, I know who I am as a person, and like what type of mess I came from, and trying to, reinvent myself, if you will, through this process. And so it's like, I've never really wanted to be in a relationship with somebody in the same process. And so I've dealt with that quite a few times. But my biggest thing has been because, like, you're in a relationship with somebody, you go to different social activities, like, parties or concerts and stuff, and people were drinking constantly. And the only thing that I found is that whenever I have a really big issue with it is when I'm not going to many meetings and I'm not, like, sticking in the basics. Like, when I'm slacking on meetings, that's when, like, my disease gets really rampant, and I'm like, well, maybe I can, just do one, or even just the thoughts of, like, maybe I I don't need these meetings anymore, or if I start lashing out thinking, like, this is a really big problem, but it's really something that's stemming from me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And now I'm just verbally just, like, going to, deflecting on somebody because of something that's going on in me. But for the most part, like, I've never really had an issue with it. Just because, like, it's just not something I want today. Yeah. You know what I mean?
And it's something we all have to deal with on a daily basis because we in recovery are the minority in the world. Like, everybody else is out drinking. Like, I go to the Ravens games all the time. And early in recovery, it was troublesome. Like, it was definitely hard to be like, oh man, that beer looks good. Like, 'cause I used to get fucking wasted at Ravens games, and now I look at it like it's not a problem anymore. And I just look at these people, and, like, people are just falling down drunk, and it's just like, oh, that's sad.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I think the biggest thing I found is, like, just as long as, like, communication is there and, like, boundaries are set.
Yep.
Because I learned, like, it is okay to have boundaries.
Yeah.
Like, 100%. It is not okay for you to be, doing, like if somebody smoked weed, like, I don't want you around me. You know what I mean? I don't care if you drink, just, like, don't do it right in front of me, or don't just get, shit faced. You know what I mean? That's because I don't like that. You know what I mean? So as long as, like, boundaries aren't crossed, you know what I mean? It's all good.
Back to you, Eric.
This is my last question.
Oh.
All right. So, you've worked all the steps.
Yes.
Right?
The steps question.
The steps question. So, you can't give us the answer of, all the steps are important and I like all of them equally.
No, I hate that. I hate when people say that.
What's your favorite step?
It used to be the 9th step.
Okay.
This time around, it was probably the 3rd step and the 11th step.
Okay.
Being is, like, with me, like, the relationship that I had with, that I have with the God of my understanding is so important. And that's why, like, with my sponsees and people that ask me my experience with it is, like, you believe in something. Like, you have to believe in just something. I don't care what it is. You don't have to believe what I believe. You know what I mean? Just know it works for me. So if you need to borrow it, you can. You know what I mean? And or, like, when I tell people, like, when they say their prayers, or even just that foxhole prayer, like, God help me. Like, who are you praying to? You know what I mean? Like, what are you praying to? And so, like, developing that relationship, it was because of my injury, that really brought me to this higher power of mine. So, like, the 3rd and the 11th steps are, like, the probably most important to me. And, by far, probably my favorites.
We need to keep a tally because, like, I say 3 as well. He says 10.
3's a great step. 10's just the one I like the best.
I really thought the way I heard that in my mind was like 10 is just better, and I was like, you fucking dick, you arrogant dick.
Is that? Did I say that though?
No, you didn't. That's what you said in my mind, so I took offense to it.
I'm living great. I can see on paper, I did this and this and this and this. I'm good, Exactly. I'm living the best life. Living my best life.
Follow-up question. How did your spirituality... Because me personally, I believe that it's an evolving process. Like, if it's like the same spirituality yesterday is not going to work tomorrow.
Absolutely.
So how did it change from your first go round to now?
So my first go around, I never had, like, I believe that there was something, but I never developed an actual relationship with it. This whole process is all about relationships, whether it's the 12-step fellowship, like, what's your relationship with that like relationship with your friends. Same thing with a higher power. Like what is like in order for me to have a relationship with something greater than myself, like I need to have constant contact. I need to be relying on that power. I need to learn how to trust and faith, just like I do with like my friends and stuff. Like if I can talk to them and tell them what's going on, I should be able to do the same thing with something greater than myself. And but the first time around, I never had that relationship. Yeah. And I would constantly tell people, like, when I would speak in meetings, I'd like, I would always say, I'd like to thank the God of my understanding for allowing me another day clean. Yeah. But, like, not even having a God of my understanding. And I would say it because it sounded good.
Like the generic Oscar speech.
Dude, without a doubt, bro. I wore that shit out. And so this time around is completely different, man. Like, I developed a higher power of my own understanding, and when I go to a type of institution, for this higher power, you know what I mean, and and I'm involved in that place too. I'm of service for that, and and I pray as much. I'm not going to tell you I pray every day because I don't. Yeah, what I mean, but I do at least like a few times a week.
Yeah, regularly.
You know what I mean, regularly, and I have a good relationship with the God of my understanding. It's cliche as it sounds, but like I really do today. It's completely different.
That's awesome, man. Well, you got any final words for the people out there?
I mean, look, man. Like, everybody's got their own story. Everybody's unique in their own ways. My biggest thing to tell people with my experience, I've learned that life definitely gives and takes, and it's not always personal. That like, so if you are going through a storm right now, like if you are going through something that you think just maybe you can't get through this clean, or you're going through like, some of those like, self-defeating thoughts, just know that like, if you stick it out, like it will get better. Like, but the biggest thing is to ask for help and reach out, and and to be open for help, because that's one of the biggest things I see constantly is like people ask for help, but they don't stay open for the help. Yeah. And so that's my biggest thing.
Fantastic.
Cool.
Any last words from you, Eric?
No, we're good, Ben.
I didn't expect so. Yeah. All right. Well, we'd like to thank our guest, Chris, for joining us. Clap track. It's a terrible clap track.
Hey, thank you guys so much for having me on.
Yeah, man. Absolutely.
Thanks for coming.
Well, here at Podcast Recovery, we are aiming to expand the scope of support for recovering addicts. Accessibility and convenience of helpful services is paramount to combating addiction. We work to bring the message of recovery to every addict, wherever and whenever it is needed. We believe that a powerful voice of recovery should be obtainable, practical, and at the touch of a button. Every addict deserves to hear a message of hope, and Podcast Recovery is here to provide it. All right. Well, one last thank you to Chris. Thank you to Eric. And we'll see you next week. Like, subscribe, share.
Yeah, do all that
Go
stuff,
check us out on podcastrecovery.com, your apps, whatever. And, stay safe, stay clean.